Hi, it's Molly. Welcome back to my YouTube channel as we're going to take a look at the powerful energies of this Taurus lunar eclipse happening on November 8th, 2022 at 6:02 p.m. That is Eastern time, so be sure and adjust for your location on the planet. Well, buckle up, buttercups, because the universe has some powerful energies working with us during this lunar eclipse. So we want to identify first the moon, which is the lunar eclipse energy signature, here at 16 degrees of Taurus. So this is the degree point you want to identify in your chart. And for those who are new, I do have a tutorial video called How to Find a Degree Point in Your Chart, and it helps you locate where this is. So 16 degrees of Taurus, and as you can see, this moon is being strongly awakened and activated by an almost exact conjunction from Uranus in Taurus at 16 degrees retrograde, 56 minutes, and both are interacting with that north node in Taurus, now at 13 degrees. So here we have a focal point on your emotional core and what is time for you to drastically or radically shift, where the universe is pointing you in the direction of the north node for ongoing growth. And we've been talking about this combination of Uranus and the north node since late July and August of this year when they were exact. So this is revisiting energies from late July and August. And now we have the moon involved in the powerful conversation around your feelings, your grounding needs, practical considerations, what you have been moving through, if there's been an emotional process you've been moving through, or something you've been understanding as it relates to the Taurus energies in your chart, but also the overall Taurus themes of the zodiac. Taurus is the first earth sign, and it's a fixed sign. It's where we seek stability in our lives. It's where we look for foundations to build upon. It relates to our own personal values and how we use those values to build a life that is meaningful, that is good for us, that gives us a sense of this is what I want to create in my own personal energy and where I want to stem my energy from. But with Uranus there, big shifts have been happening in the Taurus parts of your chart, asking you to look at, is this really authentic for you? Now, Uranus is the awakener and the disruptor. Uranus is rebellious and revolutionary. It can stir up chaos at first in order to invoke change. Uranus can be provoking and an instigator. And so here the universe has been bringing our attention to the Taurus energies that we are ready to shift, that need to make changes. And ultimately, it's because Uranus doesn't want you to keep or maintain anything that doesn't relate to your true sense of self. Ultimately, Uranus, the awakener, reveals where you're out of alignment with parts of your own frequency or energy. And here in Taurus, we are reevaluating our values and understanding, I don't want that anymore. That's not true for me anymore. But what do I do about it? The moon is our daily lives, our emotional core, how we feel, how we move through change. And because Taurus is a fixed sign, there can be the energy of resisting the change, or being stubborn or determined to stand your ground. But this energy is really stirring up the pot here, that the Taurus energies are meant to grow and evolve, but it's for your best and highest good. And that's what the North Node opens up. So this is awakening you to more authentic needs that you have that are deeply connected to what you value, what you want, and ultimately perhaps bringing in new downloads and understandings of what you're truly valuing, but it's based on a higher self-worth. So you could have some realizations here around changes in your life that maybe were scary, overwhelming, too much, too big. Taurus wants things simple. Keep it simple for me, please. And the universe is saying, well, you know, change and chaos can be messy and drastic and big, and that's all part of the experience. So maintain your internal grounding, stabilize within, and trust that this, whatever is opening up here at 13 degrees of Taurus in your chart, is showing you the way forward. And again, this is energy we've been working with for a few months now, so it's not new. Also, Uranus is retrograde and reviewing territory it's already been in your chart, revisiting parts of your own consciousness, revisiting realizations that maybe you had earlier this year. And you're like, oh, wow, I can't handle that right now. It's too much. It's too big. I don't know what to do. You know, all the things that could come up around drastic life shifts and changes. Now the universe is bringing your attention back to what is necessary. Uranus frees you from anything that's not meant for you going forward. So this is a sense of, well, what needs to be broken through? What are the breakups or breakdowns that lead to the next level? Because there's things that we're not meant to take with us, except a new higher sense of, I am worth this, I deserve this, I can create this, and making sure that that is grounded in your core energy. So it brings your emotional focus to something that you've already been sitting with or working through, and now this lunar eclipse is a kapow. It's the next Shazam. Yes, it's like you're living inside a comic book. It's like, okay, this is what needs to happen now because I'm feeling it in a different way, in a new way, and that's the moon. The moon is how we are feeling or emotionally processing the changes that the universe is basically saying it's needed and it's right on time. So we have these 3 points in Taurus, and it sets up a very interesting dialogue and energy shift here as we look at Team Scorpio. So we've got Team Taurus and we've got Team Scorpio, which also would have the South Node here at 13 degrees of Scorpio. The South Node is always opposite the North Node. And if this is in your chart, by the way, where you only see one side of the nodes, that can be typical because people get the nodes confused. So this is the North Node. And the South Node is here at 13 degrees. So we have Team Scorpio with the Sun, Mercury, Venus, and the South Node, bringing our attention to this part of your chart, the opposite side of your chart than this eclipse. And this energy is where you are accessing the deeper consciousness within you. As Scorpio goes down into what has been repressed or held back, the wisdom you're traveling with, the truth you're connecting with or reconnecting with, the Sun in Scorpio is shining a light and working with Venus in Scorpio and Mercury in Scorpio as they are traveling together, highlighting through the solar consciousness of the Sun what has been residing within you that perhaps has been a limitation or fear for moving into a new chapter in your life, or understanding that the universe sees your value, or perhaps connecting with something that you really truly want, you desire, it would be good for you, it would simplify your life. Again, because that Taurus energy is very practical, it can be very clear in what it wants. So this is interesting because you could have an internal push or pull. This is what I want. And oh my gosh, I didn't realize I had so many fears around it. Fears around change, or fears around the unknown, or the anxiety that comes up around making life changes or making a new decision for yourself. Being in that place of your power and knowing you deserve it, But usually with the Scorpio journey, there's things we have to acknowledge in ourselves, in our emotional selves, that maybe we just didn't realize we were holding energy around it. But chances are you've already been aware of it, especially during the Scorpio solar eclipse at 2 degrees of Scorpio in your chart, which was an opening up or a beginning to see something within yourself in a new way. And then here we are 2 weeks later at the Taurus lunar eclipse with new realizations and understandings around that. And maybe anything around where you have been unconsciously disempowered in loving yourself, which is core energy, foundational energy, but how that has impacted life choices or what you've moved through or moved towards. See, this Uranus is actually the biggest energy signature here because it holds the most weight, if you will, the higher consciousness, because it's the outer planet that's interacting with the moon, the sun, Venus, and Mercury, the personal planets. So this outer planet is affecting deep reprogramming of the moon, of the sun, Venus, Mercury, and is actually not only liberating the moon, but is asking you to truly see the depths within yourself that are no longer needed, that are no longer necessary for where you're going and could be connected to only where you've been. And with the connection to Mercury, it could be a powerful time to ask yourself, where have I held back my truth? What would it mean if I lived honestly and authentically by communicating my truth, by communicating from an empowering place? How would that transform your life if that was a new value that you readily activated and how you lived going forward, where you transformed anything you were holding back within yourself? And this is, of course, a general reading, so it requires looking at these themes for yourself and tapping into them, especially here in these Scorpio areas of your chart. But this Mercury, as it's approaching the sun and will have an exact conjunction with the sun just hours after this eclipse occurs, is an awakening to, it feels like a pivotal truth. Because this Mercury not only is conjunct the sun, but then opposing Uranus. A shocking revelation, secrets, things that were hidden or kept in the dark or kept in your own psyche and unaware of what you were really feeling. It comes to light and it comes out. And it needs to be said. And it's almost like there's something here. If you've been holding back something you need to say or express, there can be a shift from a place of disempowerment into full acceptance of your truth, full acceptance of what is powerful for you. Because again, this isn't just the sun and Mercury going to be conjunct. They're being activated by the cosmic intelligence of the universe through Uranus that says, maybe you need to say something or express it or communicate it or write it out. Maybe you just need to hear yourself and what is coming through your mind, or share it with somebody you trust. So there's something rising up with the Mercury energy and communications. And then this ongoing conjunction with Venus, which, as you may remember, started with the Venus star point at 29 degrees of Libra. Then Venus traveled with the sun into Scorpio and has been traveling with the sun through Scorpio. And now as Venus moves ahead, she is having some deeper understandings. And this is where, as she enters the third decan of Scorpio, which starts here at 20 degrees, she is rising up in her power. Sense that Venus star point especially. And this is the Phoenix rising energy. And she is being supported through a trine to Neptune at 22 degrees. Then Venus and Scorpio will sextile Pluto, now direct at 26 degrees of Capricorn. And then Venus is going to trine Jupiter at 29 degrees of Pisces now, as Jupiter has re-entered Pisces as of the last week of October. And it's interesting because earlier this year in April, we had this conjunction with Neptune and Jupiter in Pisces. They were at 23, 24 degrees. And they had Venus join them. That was also during eclipse season, when Venus was the ruler of the Taurus solar eclipse back in late April. And Venus is the ruler of this Taurus lunar eclipse. And now she's going to be reconnecting with these planets in Pisces. So since Venus moved on from this powerful conjunction between Neptune and Jupiter in Pisces, she's been on a journey around the zodiac here, and now she's been drastically reprogrammed, recalibrated, and stepping into more of what she truly needs. But she's ended patterns. She's faced fears. She's looked at where she's been limited in giving and receiving. Receiving love, giving love, connections, true partnerships, and solid friendships. Like, she's had some deep realizations here. Venus has had a lot going on this year. So now she's meeting up. After this eclipse, she's going to be trining both of these energies. She's telling them what she's learned about her journey and how she has faced some things that were really uncomfortable. And she's connecting it to the Pisces spiritual growth, the higher perspective, the soul wisdom of what it's all been about, while also the compassion and love for herself that maybe she felt disconnected from at times. And then she's also interacting with Pluto at 26 degrees of Capricorn, and this Pluto is strengthening her. So there's a new power emerging in this Venus. And it could be that now she knows where she needs to go, what she needs to change, or what this Taurus lunar eclipse is showing her from a different angle, from a new perspective. And I'm thinking this through right now, but it might be helpful to go back and watch that April 2022 Taurus solar eclipse video I did for you that talked more about this energy and Venus in the mix, and to look at, here we are 6 months later. What has changed for you in your values? What has changed in your heart? What has changed in your own looking at yourself with new eyes, perhaps looking at, in Scorpio, it's about the fears we face so that we are more empowered, so that we own it. We can own the fears. And that means at times that those fears don't completely go away. It's like, okay, I can see this fear. I know when it pops up, or I understand what it looks like now in myself, in my mind, in my emotional space. But now I can look at it, and it's not a monster hiding under the bed. It's a fear that I'm working on. And we talk about transformation, but that is a different timeline or process for every person. So you're on your own timeline journey of what that means for you. And that's just to be accepted as how your energy works, to not fight against yourself. And that can be part of this energy too, because you see how there's such strong opposition between Team Scorpio and Team Taurus, but it's like you're all on the same team. Silly. You're all on the same team. This is your whole chart. So it's almost like don't create separate, oh, lights on. Don't create this internal push and pull if you can embrace the fact that you are on team you and this is your soul's journey. And it's understanding too how, you know, we're multifaceted beings. So we have many layers, many expressions. And it's through Scorpio, it's the alchemy of it. It's bringing it together. I am this and this. I am aware of what's happening deep within me, but that doesn't mean I can deny my self-love. In fact, the Taurus energy wants you to accept and love yourself for exactly what you're going through and facing, even when it can feel really intense, or maybe you feel moody, or maybe there's a sense of riding these roller coasters of the uncertainty. It's like this can be the internal storms, internal emotional storms. And Taurus is like, the sun is going to shine again. Tomorrow's a new day. You've got this. Let's simplify it. Let's move you out of some of this complexity of the mind, of the heart, of the emotional experience, of the underworld, and go into these parts of yourself. You're safe. You're good. You've got this. It's becoming clearer. The storm is clearing. And this is the way to return to that. And again, I feel like it's very important to remember that even when there are intense emotional experiences, big life changes, things that you're moving through that are significant, you're still traveling with love from your soul and even a sense of, I can handle this. I've got this. Break it down into something simple, and that's how you'll reach clarity. And this energy is also working with, as I said, this Pisces energy that can help you see the bigger picture of what you're growing and moving through across multiple lifetimes, which is also what this Pluto energy holds as well, is your soul's evolutionary growth. That, yeah, it's uncomfortable, but Pluto reminds you that you're fierce, you're powerful, you've got this. In fact, there could be things that you faced in previous lifetimes that were even more difficult than this, but you've got this, and to power up, whatever that means for you, but to know that that is supporting you at this time. And then we have this square from Saturn. Saturn, he just likes to be in every conversation these days, doesn't he? Saturn is squaring the planets in Taurus and squaring the planets in Scorpio. And it's an ongoing square that is reverberating out from when this connection was made with Uranus at 18 degrees of Taurus back in early October. And Saturn is still here looking at you over his eyeglasses, giving you the stare down. It's a Saturn stare down. What are you going to do that's responsible, mature, gives you a sense of clarity and power that is connected to the long term here, that's connected to the future self, that is aware even of, it's interesting, I'm getting the message, it's aware of your soul's mission, that's Aquarius, but you've had to pass through, okay, I'm going to call it the gates of hell. You've had to pass through some deep things in order to get to this reconnection to where you're going. So Saturn, the square, I mean, this is intense. Saturn is squaring every planet here and every planet and point here. So the Saturn energy is still in the conversation and is actually helping with detachment from the emotional intensity. Saturn is also about things we have to do on our own terms. And in Aquarius, it's showing us who travels with us and who doesn't, where there's some people in your soul group, in your community, in your world, in your friendships, where you're realizing, I don't think we're on the same path. But it isn't new realizations necessarily. It's things you've already known. And it's maybe been something that, you've just been aware of. I mean, look at all this fixed energy. Saturn, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Planets in fixed signs, planets in points, counting the nodes. And the fixed signs don't want to be rushed, don't want to be told what to do, want to operate on their own timeline based on their own choices. And the universe has been applying pressure that the time is now. The choices are here. It's time for this transformation. It's already happening. So if you're being dragged, crying and screaming, okay, but there's energies you've already been working with. In fact, it could even be something where the fixed signs, it's like, why are you resisting the universe? What is the fear? What is the fear? And if you're openly aware of it and addressing it, then you've already got your answers. So when we have 3 of these energies highlighted, so the Taurus, Aquarius, and Scorpio fixed signs, we look at what's missing, and it's the Leo energy up here. Okay, so there's nothing in Leo to work with these other 3 energies. And the Leo energy brings you back into your solar plexus energy of your desire to create a life that excites you, that motivates you. And I feel like there's this energy signature of recreation going on. And then when you bring in that missing component of the Leo energy, it's like, this is what fits for me, because it speaks directly to that solar plexus sense of self. And it's like, yes, this is what I want. This is what inspires me or motivates me. This strengthens me. So I feel like what we're moving through with this Taurus lunar eclipse has been a very dynamic dance that's actually been unfolding since earlier this year. You're already aware of some things that are ready to change or shift in your life. Perhaps you've already tuned into where you've been held back or holding yourself back. Perhaps you're also aware of some of the changes that you're like, not right now. And the universe is saying, actually, right now. And Saturn is also saying right now, because Saturn is the timekeeper. So now you're on universal timeline. It's not a personal timeline, and the change is happening. The shifts are happening. And ultimately, in the divine timing of it all, it is right on time, even if the ego or the heart or the mind is struggling to keep up with these accelerated energies. On that note, Mars is now retrograde at 25 degrees of Gemini. This happens the end of October 30th. And this Mars is now at a standstill. In Gemini, he's restless. So he's not really standing. He's just going back and forth between his right leg and his left leg and his right leg and his left leg and the 2 sides of his brain. So it's kind of like the energy is stirring internally. The choices, Gemini, the directions to go. But then here you are with this retrograde Mars who is slowed down, who isn't moving forward. In fact, he's now traveling back to 8 degrees of Gemini until the middle of January 2023. So this is reviewing, reconsidering, reprioritizing, and also reevaluating a direction, a thought, an idea, a choice, a path. So this Mars is on a redirect. He's slowing down, and ultimately this can support greater mindfulness, greater thoughtfulness around what you're thinking, what you're choosing, how you're taking action. Mars is a co-ruler of Scorpio, and along with Pluto. So this Mars is not as influential right now. This Mars is in a review process and is in the retrograde and will meet up with a square to this Neptune as well, which also debilitates him, diffuses his life force and his energy, his physical energy. So there's a slowdown with Mars, and he actually can't see clearly with that square. I would even say he's squaring this Jupiter in Pisces too. So there's a slowdown here, but there's so much here, and there's so much here. So you could look at the Gemini areas of your chart. There's a slowdown. Again, that's where the Mars retrograde is occurring, between 8 and 25 degrees of Gemini in your chart. So that's where there isn't as much, again, life force or new energy coming in the Gemini areas, because the universe is like, actually, you got to deal with this. And keep in mind, Taurus is before Gemini. So you have to go back to your values and what you want. And if there's been anything mindless or restless or careless here, look at how Mars in Gemini, he's going back to 8 degrees, yes. But when you look at the order of astrological signs in the zodiac, Gemini is at its best when it's done the Taurus work. When the Taurus energy is clear, solid, this is what I'm about, this is what I love about myself, this is what I'm worthy of. Once this has been fully strengthened, then that Gemini energy has clearer choices to make, because then it's connected to the self-worth. So I feel like there's this interesting thing happening where the universe is saying, go back to the foundational energy in yourself, in your life, in what really matters to you. And that will ultimately serve you during this Mars retrograde in Gemini, which is the reconsidering of direction and choices. But there's something beautiful here about returning to this Taurus focus, because that, in fact, could re-energize this Mars and provide clarity for you, especially in the first quarter of 2023. So it's all connected. It's all Team You. It's all your energy. The disconnections, the separations are the illusion. And part of the gifts even of Scorpio season is the alchemy, and how we bring all of it together to truly love ourselves, honor our energy, and be in our power as we move forward. So a lot happening, which we're already aware of. And this begins, every eclipse is a 6-month energy cycle. And we have one more Taurus eclipse in 2023, and we have one more Scorpio eclipse in 2023. And I actually have now for you the full 2023 Soul Growth Astrology program available. It's 8 videos covering the major powerful astrology of 2023, which, by the way, is the biggest astrology we've had since 2020. So next year is huge. And I will put details below this video for you to check it out. It's only $33 with coupon code HELLO2023, but it gives you a heads up on what the next year is bringing your way, and also what we are moving through collectively as well as personally. Now, one more thing to touch on here is how this lunar eclipse, November 8th, is occurring on the USA election day. So plan for an exciting day of election energies. Mercury, the messenger, brings in the votes, the information, what's happening. Is it real in Scorpio? Are there secrets? Are things being manipulated behind the scenes? The moon in Taurus is the public, the people, the voters, and the shocking energy of Uranus is in play. The North Node is in play. So big energy there on that Tuesday, election day. And it'll be interesting to look at what Saturn says, how Saturn weighs in on results, developments, what's real, what's true. Let's verify the facts. Let's verify the information. So, big doings here. And at least we're not bored. So thank you so much for joining me for this Taurus lunar eclipse video. I'll be back with another video for you in 2 weeks as we look at the Sagittarius new moon. In the meantime, take good care of yourself. Be in that powerful place of understanding what you need and who you are now, while also honoring and really fortifying that beautiful self-love frequency that your soul is always holding and carrying for you. And maybe that's also where you're feeling some powerful downloads right now. I'll be back here soon. Thanks so much for joining me, and have a beautiful lunar eclipse.